Welcome, parents and students, those watching online, and to our the Writer's Celebration. I am Mrs. Flout. I'm not your children's teacher. I'm a substitute, but I have subbed your children for a lot of classes, and in particular this one, and I love them dearly. Mr. Teague is watching online, so when you guys have a chance afterwards, we'll all get in there and say hello. He's really excited about this. The kids are excited, I hope, to share their stories that they've been working really hard at. Before we get started, know that you will receive a link to all stories this afternoon, and students, you'll be voting on your favorite stories, so that means you are listening. Really pay attention when you're done. Give the person that's up here the respect that they gave you, okay? Writers, you'll have 2 minutes to read your story. Once you hear the alarm ringing, that means wrap it up, get finished, and then they'll stay up here a couple seconds if you have 1 or 2 questions that they can answer for you, okay? Christian, your first up.
Hi, my story's called Evil Eyes, and I'll start from where it's coming close to the ending. Now it was dark and he was alone. He turned around and saw what looked like someone moving. "Hello," shouted Steve. "Mom or Dad, is it you?" He heard what seemed like a reply, but couldn't make out the words. It sounded like a moan, or a grunt. He screamed again while he moved towards the figure. He could get a picture of it now. It seemed to be limping. The grunting sound was getting louder and louder as he approached. He could see it now. It was bald, but its skin was green? Why was it green? What on earth is that? Steve had started running back towards the cabin. He had a faint idea of where it was. He was frightened by the being, and when he looked back he saw the thing. But now there were more of them. There were around 20, and the grunting sound was a lot louder now. Steve could feel the chills running down his spine. He could see the cabin now. He ran inside and shut the door and locked it. "Phew," he spoke. He was panting now. He turned around and gasped. There were around 50 of them inside. Run was the only thing he had in his head. He opened the door and ran, but there were another 100 outside. The ladder! It led up to the roof, so he started climbing. He got up on the roof and looked down. They were climbing up after him. He could finally see what they were. They were zombies. It makes sense. The abandoned island, the skeleton with the hole right where his brain is. They were coming in from all the sides. He sat down and cried. "I'm hopeless. I'm going to die alone," he cried to himself. One of the zombies grabbed him. It lifted him up and looked right at him. Steve gasped. He opened his eyes. He looked out and saw what looked like his drawer. He turned around and saw the window, the same window he woke up to the morning they left for the island. "Steve, hurry up," shouted his dad. But it couldn't be Dad. He was gone. He was dead. Steve couldn't get his head around that. around that thought. He took his clothes on. It was the same clothes he had on that day. He didn't and couldn't think about that. He was too confused. Was it all a dream? He whispered to himself, but it seemed all too real. The fairy, the old man, the cabin, and the zombies. He went out to the door and opened it up to find his dad looking right at him. But this wasn't his real dad. He looked like a zombie. All he could do was stare at his white, evil eyes. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Christian? This is a good time to ask students or parents. It's fine. No? Okay.
Thank you.
Does he turn into a zombie? He is a zombie, but what happens to him? I'm kind of curious.
I guess you have to read the story.
Yeah, see? Okay. Yusef? Well done.
Well, I'd like to preface this by saying thank you to all the parents who've showed up and everyone who's watching online. And thanks, Mr. Teague, for also supporting us there. It's a big honor to have you guys here. So, this is a passage from the beginning of my story called The Puppeteer. Thank you. April 27th, 2004. I hate this job. I've only had this godforsaken job for 2 weeks, but I hate this job. I'm a puppeteer. You know, the guy who's supposed to entertain kids at their birthday parties. Yeah, real fun. It's supposed to be easy, but something's not right. I ordered a puppet offline to try and make some quick cash on any sucker who wants his kid to be entertained. But the puppet isn't normal. For one, it's got scratches all over its face, like it was some cat's private toy. As well, it has its eyes. It's got crimson red eyes with no pupils, like those from cheesy B-rated horror movies. Ugh. As well, whenever I perform for those little kids, I can't get a grasp of what I'm doing, and I have no memory of any of my performances. Frankly, I've chalked it up to me not liking the job or paying any attention to what I'm doing, but something isn't right. I just know it. April 29th, 2004. I'm legitimately terrified right now. I know I'm just being paranoid, but I don't care. Yeah, it's probably that, mixed with all the shots of God knows what. I got rid of the bloody thing, threw it in a dumpster and walked outside, and waited until a truck came and compacted it. Funny thing is, though, I still see it. Everywhere. I must be crazy, right? Yeah, I have to be. There isn't any other way to explain it. I don't know how this can be possible. Whatever. It's just a puppet I bought online. What harm could it bring? April 30th, 2004. I spoke too soon. I see it everywhere. I can't concentrate. I've taken a leave off university. The puppet is ruining my life. I think I've seen it in my house, multiple times in fact, in reflections in the mirror, on the back of my cupboards. I think I'm going crazy. I've tried to rationalize all this, but it's too much for me to handle. I can't do this anymore. I'm finding that thing and burning it. It's taking over my life. I hope that you can believe me. Frankly, I don't believe myself.
Stay for questions. Stay. I know it's hard for you kids, but do me a favor, just sit tight for 2 seconds because everyone might have a question for you. Go ahead.
Yes, Mom?
Sounds like your parent was here.
How many characters are in your story? Is it just the puppet and the actual narrator?
A medium, the narrator, and the puppet. But it's
Without giving away.
a very short story, yeah, but it's very closed as well. It only relates to those 3 characters, and the third one comes in contact very late in the story, so. Anything else?
Tom? Good job, Yusef. Okay, now you've had a chance, so we're all going to focus on who's on the front.
My story is called Lost. It was a warm, sunny day in the timber forest. The Johnson family was having a nice stroll, looking for the perfect spot for a picnic. Once they found a good enough spot, they sat down on their rough, colorful rug. Alice, the youngest child out of the 2, asked if she could go play in the park just a little further down the path. "Yes, honey, but don't stay for too long," shouted their mum as Alice ran past them. It had been 45 minutes since Alice had gone to the park, and everyone was starting to get a little bit nervous. Her parents told John, the older brother, to bring her back. John always thought he would be super happy if his sister got lost. Luckily for him, she did, but he didn't know that yet. John walked down to the park. He spent about 5 minutes looking for her, but wasn't able to find her. He rushed back with actually worried, and that's. Does anybody have questions?
Fatima?
My name is Fatma, and my story is the camp. So I'm gonna start here. The girl who came in looked at me up and down, as if judging me, and gave Gendra a nod of approval. Hey, how are you? I'm Anna, and welcome to the best dorm of the camp. She turned around, followed by Kendra. Once I stepped into the back room, all I could see is darkness. I dropped my stuff and saw something in the corner of my eye glistening underneath the carpet. I crept slowly and grabbed the cold, what seems to be a handle. I opened it to find stairs leading down somewhere. Clash, boom, are you okay, was all I could hear. My head was spinning and I put my arm out and held onto what seemed to be a table. Always happens to the new one. I heard Kendra's voice. Paralyzed, that's the feeling, paralyzed, that's it. Roya. I tried to, for the story, I tried to like make it seem at suspense because it wasn't like really a drama. It's a drama story, but I didn't want to make it like horror at the same time. So, thank you.
Lena?
Hi, I'm Lena. I'm going to be reading a clip from my story. And this is somewhere like in the action part. It's where the most character change, emotional change occurs. And I'm going to start reading now. Carrie, where are we going? Layla questioned. I'm trying to find a way out, I replied. So come on, there's light at the end of that hallway. We ran down the hallway, and at the end was a candle and a heavy wooden door that looked like it had been hit with a hammer a bunch of times. Dents covered it all over, and there was dust in front of it. There was also a huge metal lock. You know the slidey locks they put in bathroom stalls to replace the broken ones? Imagine one 100 times bigger than that. I slowly creaked the door open and cautiously walked in. There were large dent marks and scratches on the wall, as if there had been some kind of giant cat fight. Suddenly, I was looking at 2 huge blank white circles. Uh-oh. I slowly backed away. I couldn't tell for sure in the dim light, but Lila was terrified. Ugh, good thing I never get scared. That expression would be so embarrassing. The whatever it was stood up and slowly inched towards us. We backed up back into the hallway as the creature stepped into the light. It was huge, with giant purple horns sticking out from its forehead. It had blank white eyes and thick dark blue fur covering its entire body. Interesting. I always thought monsters like these would have brown fur. I was starting to get a different feeling I hadn't felt before. Lila, I'm getting a weird feeling. I'm shaking, but I have no idea why. What's this feeling? I said in a voice that was a little higher than my normal voice. That, Carrie, is fear. You're telling me you've never felt fear before? Lila questioned. Yes, no, I don't know. Let's just get out of here, I screamed. How was I feeling fear? I never got scared. Never. Why now? Anyway, we had to start moving. I started running and didn't look back. Maybe not looking back was a mistake. After a few minutes, I saw massive green leaves. This must be the maze. Hey, Lila, let's slow down. I think we lost it. Lila? I whirled around to find an empty hallway. She must have gone down one of the other hallways by mistake. Then, a piercing scream cut through the silence. That's it.
Does anyone have any questions? No? Or you're lucky. Okay, Elias. Elias, I always say it wrong, sorry. You know who you are? Come on, you guys. It's me.
Hey, my name is Elias. I'm going to read The Knack, and I'm starting from the beginning. One morning, Jonathan woke up tired but excited. As he looked at the Canadian landscape, he could barely see anything. It was so dark, as if someone had blown out the sun like a candle. So he looked at the clock, 5 o'clock. 2 more hours and I'm on my way to Camp Woodward, Jonathan said joyfully. Camp Woodward, a camp where all kinds of different kids with different talents come and stay for 2 weeks without their parents. But Jonathan was only going there for one reason, and that was skateboarding. Jonathan had been skateboarding since he was a little toddler, and now he was up for the challenge. That's it.
You're okay, this is okay. Everyone's name right.
Hello, my name is Matei, and I'm going to be reading Distant. My name is Tyler. I'm 40 years old from Boston, Massachusetts, in the U.S., and I'm an astronaut, spaceship pilot. Recently, about a few days ago, I received an email from NASA itself. All they said was, "This is an important message. Do not delete. Come to our base in Washington, D.C. as soon as possible. This is for a very important cause. Hotel and plane tickets are booked. No questions, Professor Steve." Later at NASA. Now, to introduce you to what this whole thing is about and why I have requested for you to come here. As you can see, there are 5 of you, right? You are the chosen ones. You will be sent into outer space and navigate with your shuttle towards a very distant planet. Its scientific name is NV465, or what we like to call it, Stephan's Planet. This name was taken from Stephen Hawking because he was the discoverer of this planet. There are good news and bad news. The bad news is that the planet is not close by. It is actually in the Andromeda Galaxy. I sat there with my mouth dropped probably all the way to the floor. The good news is that with our new technology, we have finally built a rocket that has the ability to travel at the speed of light. Your journey will last roughly 2 to 3 years in your perspective, but on Earth it will be probably around 100 years. You will be sent in the mission to save the world. And what I mean by save the world is literally save the world. We have detected a colossal comet that is approaching toward Earth from far away and will hit in 150 earthly years to be precise. So we're not sure about that. That's what you're here for. The planet is set to sustain life, which you will inform us immediately. In a few astronomical years, we should be with you. I probably will not live by then, but to save the future, humanity is particularly our goal. Thank you. Any questions?
Did you parents would like to stop a moment and get coffee or tea or water, or you're just trying to carry on? Pedro, you're next, my man.
Hi, I'm Pedro, and I'm going to be reading a passage from my book, The Eclipse. "It's a hacker's nightmare," mutters Saf, barely looking up from his tech desk. "No access ports anywhere. Was keeping the Red's secret weapon a secret worth sacrificing contact with this $1 million ship? I mean, there's not even a radio. Do you really want a space pilot frolicking around the galaxy with a doomsday device?" I asked. "No," he admitted. Grat docked the carrier on the belly of the ship. He attached the carrier and opened the hatch. Frank cut a hole on the ship. We put on our suits and climbed into the ship. Gravity was deactivated, so we floated once we got on. I tried to contact Grat, but I just got static. The raiders didn't even deactivate the comm blockers. Strange. I climbed back into the carrier with Grat and Sav. I took off my helmet. "Comm blockers are working," I said. This is getting weird. Tell me about it. They didn't deactivate gravity or even oxygen anywhere on the ship, said Saf. Also, they destroyed the remote hacking blocker. These guys make Rez look like genius. I'm gonna head back to the space station and come back with food and water, said Grat. I have a feeling you're gonna need it. But we don't have communications, I said. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Plus, you can just remove the comm blocker. Yeah, I don't think that's such a good idea, said Saf, looking at his tech desk. Remember that rich guy we robbed a couple of weeks back? Yeah, he put a bounty on our heads. You can survive here for a year, much less 6 months, said Grat. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Harry, and this story is called Rising. My name is Harry, and this story is called Rising. As Greg started to see the light, he realized the smell changed. There was no more smell of poo, but rather the sweet smell of baked cookies, or at least he thought it was baked cookies. As slowly Greg opened up his eyes, he saw something white. Hello there, how are you? Said the all-white girl. What the? Who are you? Said Greg, seeing more of the white girl, only to find out she had wings. Allow me to introduce myself. My name's July, but my friends call me Julia, said Julia. All right. Hi, Julia. If you don't mind telling me this, can you tell me what you are? Questioned Greg. I'm an angel training to become a doctor, said Julia as she flapped her wings. All right, just another question. Where am I? Questioned Greg. Rest the prophet, Greg, said Julia as she touched Greg's forehead. But wait, did you say the prophet Greg? Greg questioned as he slowly got up to a sitting position. Yes, but that is to be discussed in a bit. Right now, you must rest. It is late, she said as she walked away. As she walked away, Greg noticed something. There was nothing outside the hospital window, just blackness. With all these strange events occurring and so many questions, Greg decided to hold on to his thoughts for another time, slowly closing his eyes and finally sleeping.
I'm going to be reading the last part of my story, Invincibility. They knew parents I hated would adopt me. They knew one day I would run away. So they gave their last message to me and left. I looked through the old documents, careful not to spill the water droplets running freely down my face. They are alive. They are in hiding. A tear of pride spills down my cheek, and my eyes crinkle from my smile. They're waiting for me. So I run out of the house, out of the neighborhood, and with my transportation, I go find my real parents. A long time ago, Mom told me that life is like a document. Mistakes are the things that tear the paper up. My paper was so ripped, my will was the only thing keeping it together. I admit, my mistakes were grand, but because I met up with them, because I accepted the truth, I saved the world.
Hi, my name is Ben, and I'm going to read the first part of my story. It's called The Seventh Birthday. Okay, readers, there are two stories to tell in this one story. Both in the summertime in Chicago, Illinois. The story is about a single mother. It was her son's 7th birthday. Another story is about a man who didn't come out much and rarely smiled. Here's the first story. It was July 27th, 1976. Jack's 7th birthday. Jack was like any ordinary 7-year-old, active, joyful, and a little ball of energy. He had just one mother to take care of him, and her name was Susan Thompson. She was around her mid-30s and was an enjoyable mother. She would always give the most time she could. She'd always give the most time she could for Jack, her little boy. She was always happy, even if she was a widow. The kids were singing the happy birthday song. After that, Jack happily cut the cake. It was a turn of events that day when he opened his presents. He got a squeaky stuffed animal which he dearly loved, but his mother was horrified by it. Jack saw a cute teddy bear, but his mother saw a ruined, creepy doll. It was ripped, moldy, and old. Susan immediately asked, "Who brought this present?" in a horrified voice. But no one answered her question. After the party, Jack took the stuffed animal and kept it. Weeks later, Jack was bringing the bear everywhere. No matter where he went, he took the doll with him. First, his mother just thought he just really likes it. Then Jack started becoming different. He started acting weird. He would murmur to himself, and he would stay in his room without coming out. He wouldn't eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Days turned into weeks, and then months.
Yeah, they want to know now. I want to know, how old was Jack? He was 7, you said?
Yeah.
And his mother didn't get him out of that room to eat? I'm kind of shocked. Good job, Ben. Anis, did anyone have any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, I just wanted to know. You said before there are two different stories, but
Yeah.
they, I'm assuming, intertwined.
Yeah.
One about a man who rarely smiled and rarely came out of his.
That's coming out like
Yeah.
a bit after.
Is Jack that man?
No, that man is actually the narrator. He.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Alright.
No, but can you tell us something? Can you tell us anything about who he's coming? The second part that, without a spoiler, but is there a way of telling us?
I'll just say he's a hard stone cold man.
There's a couple other questions. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Did you finally finish it?
That's
Yeah.
a bad question. Come on.
Yeah.
You said like you had two different stories. Is the both stories happening at the same time but different points of view?
No, this is actually just all one point of view from this guy that's telling the story.
So it's taking place at the same time?
Yeah, same time, 1976, in summer, July 27th. Yeah.
So that date is important in that story. It seems to be. It's just a date you picked. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Good job. Big
Hi.
voice, my man.
Okay. Hi, my name is Anas, and my story is called The Haunting. And so, he blew the dust off the painting and found a picture of a young woman with the name of Annabelle Smith. He looked at his mother with a puzzled look, and as soon as he turned around to look at the painting, the girl smiled with satisfaction. Kevin jumped with fear and rushed to throw the painting away. When the sun was about to set, they went to feed the dog Coco, but when they found him, he was flat on the floor covered with flies. It almost looked like he'd been there for years, all bones and dead skin, and the only thing Kevin felt was fear. They both stood there speechlessly, staring at the remains of Coco, while a tear streams down Kevin's face. His mom was baffled by the horrendous sight, yet still standing stiff as a stone. Kevin walked impassively to the garage, searching for gloves to pick up Coco with. As his mother still stands over Coco's body speechlessly, he puts the gloves on, reaches down, and picks up Coco carefully. Kevin walks to the back of the house slowly, placing Coco on the ground. While he digs a hole with his hands, saying his last goodbyes, he places Coco in the hole and covers over him slowly. He stands over the small grave he made for him, trying to understand how it all happened so fast. He walks back into the house to comfort his mom from the shocking sight she had just seen. After what seemed to be the longest day, Kevin goes to get ready for bed. While he's in the bathroom brushing his teeth, he starts to have flashbacks of all the amazing memories he had with Coco. That's it.
So I have a question. Is that based on any truth? Is there any truth in that story? Like, did that happen to you or anyone you know?
No.
It's very emotional. It's good. Anyone have any questions? No? Imam?
Hi, my name is Imam. I'm going to read this part in my story. It's near the end. The story is called Run. Every single time Richard looked back, the man seemed to have picked up his pace. It ran like it was hunting Richard for food. It ran wildly, but with some purpose. But that was the thing Richard could not think of. The man was chasing him, for no reason. Its arms were wide open, ready to grab Richard with its huge hands. Richard's legs were killing him, and there was no way he could keep on running for long. He looked at the trees to try to find some way to escape the monster. "Come on," Richard said. "I have to find some way to lose him." Richard then saw a gigantic, thick redwood tree. He sprinted behind the tree and hoped the monster wouldn't see him. It didn't. The monster slowed to a walk and faced towards the tree. It slowly walked closer and closer to Richard. Richard then held his breath. Suddenly, Richard's eyes started closing and he slumped over. He then quickly stood up straight while his eyes shot wide open. He was falling asleep. As the monster got closer and closer, Richard kept on almost falling asleep. Soon it was too much for Richard to handle, and Richard collapsed on the ground. Richard woke from a dream that was unimaginable. He was in the forest with a monster chasing him. He got out of his bed and started stretching. All of a sudden, the monster he saw in his dreams walked in the room. Richard then realized that the room was the shed he saw in his dream, but now it had a bed. The monster charged at him, which put him against the wall. The monster slouched down and pushed him against the wall. "Don't touch me!" Richard screamed. "Help! Someone help me!" It was no use. No one can hear him in the deep forest. The man then opened his mouth, took a couple of steps back, and jumped at Richard. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, my name's Tissia, and I'm reading the story Cold and Sweet. Midnight struck, and the white buds which decorated the ground bloomed. They turned huge and started to light up. After a minute, the petals began to fall, and Ira said, "The time for my sweet, cold dessert has come." "What type of sweet, cold dessert is it? Ice cream?" asked Cassandra. Ira opened up her red eyes without any whites or pupils, and bellowed, "Revenge! I will get my revenge!" Cassandra screamed and dropped Ira and ran. She ran and ran and ran until she thought she was safe. When she stopped, she realized she was lost. She decided to find her way back in the morning. After what felt like hours to her, Cassandra stopped at the base of the tree. A tree with silver leaves and barren land around it. Due to her exhaustion, she surrounded herself in leaves, curled up in a ball, and fell asleep. She awoke to the sound of her mother's voice and thought the entire thing was a dream until she opened her eyes and saw she was still in the forest. Anne saw her mother's whose eyes were closed. She told her mother about the entire ordeal while sobbing. Her mother's only reply was, "It was caught in your father's trap. It spent years and years stuck there." The mutiny in her mother's voice worried Cassandra. I spent years and years stuck in that trap, and I will get my sweet, cold revenge," raged Cassandra's mother. Her mother opened her eyes, surprising Cassandra to the point of screaming. His whiteless, pupilless, red eyes daunted her tremendously. The creatures turned back to its original Ira form and bit Cassandra's head off. And Cassandra's bright, happy world turned to darkness. The end. Questions?
Did anyone or anything inspire, your character?
No.
Another question.
Is that the end of the story? Close. Ben?
Cassandra isn't the main character then. Who exactly is? The main character does not mention.
Well, maybe to see a story it does.
I don't like it when the main character gets killed, but I did it.
Spoilers! You shocked us when the head got bit off, I was gonna
Hi, my name's Roya, and my story is called The Tragic Life of a Foster Kid. And this is a part near the middle. I wake up, another day in hell. Except today was special. Adeline decided to make us pancake. Then she told me something I could never believe. She began with, "Hello, sunshine," and I responded, "Hey, Addie." She began to talk about driving. "You know how you got your driver's license a couple weeks ago? Well, I might have decided to buy you a car." I gasped from excitement and go out the small house we live in and see the car. I couldn't believe it. A car. It must have cost a fortune for Adeline. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. How could I ever repay you?" As soon as I left the house, I headed to find a job at a restaurant. Surprisingly, I got the job. I went back home and started thinking, why is God being kind to me now? Maybe it's not a tragic life after all. And I fell asleep. Except it was. This day has turned into the worst day. I woke up and found my brother crying. I asked him what happened, and the most terrible thing I've ever experienced. I was mad and sad. I couldn't control my tears. They were pouring out like a waterfall. I rushed to the living room and realized it's true. Adeline is being carried to an ambulance, and the doctor told me she might have a chance at living, but it's a small percent. I couldn't breathe. I told my brother to rush to the car and we would go to the hospital. When we arrived, it was too late. She had already died. My pathetic life was full of disappointment, but this was the worst of them all. The doctor told us that her last words were to tell us this: "The fear of death follows from the fear of life. A woman who lives fully is prepared to die at any time. Now it's my time." It's dark outside. The rain is pouring down my window, just like my tears pouring down my face onto my pillow. My whole world is frozen. All I could hear is the sound of my heart pounding. I just wanted to stab myself in the heart, but I couldn't. I couldn't leave my brother in this cruel world, not when he needed me the most. Thank you. Yeah?
So, what exactly happened to Adeline?
Sorry?
What exactly happened to Adeline?
She died from, yeah. Oh, heart attack. Yes?
How did you get inspiration to write the story? Why did you choose Adeline today?
Because actually, I don't want to spoil anything, but something will happen where the main character is gonna change, and I wanted to start from Adeline's death. Thank you. Oh, Pedro.
Was Adeline the sister or the?
She was because they didn't have their parents. Adeline decided to take care of them. She was an old wise lady that they lived with. That's it. Yeah.
Did you come up with the last words that Adeline said? Because that was very wise.
Thank you.
That sentence itself is a really wise sentence. Did
Thank you.
come up with it, or is
Part of it I took from a show, and the other part I tried to make up. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, so my name's Emmy, and my story is called The Third Time. I start to panic as the handlebars of the bike move uncontrollably, and doing the dumb thing, I try to move the handlebars to steady the bike. That was a bad idea because I felt myself being thrown off the bike. I squeeze my eyes shut because I don't want to see myself falling to possibly my death. I'm about to open my eyes when I slam into the road. The fall knocks the breath out of me. I stay there for a couple of seconds to catch my breath. It's okay, I whisper to myself, I'm okay. I take a deep breath and shakily stand up. I quietly yelp as I feel a stab of pain in my right wrist. I've broken it, I thought. It was my third time, after all. I had enough experience to know that I had broken it. My bike is in the middle of the road, so I quickly move it on the pavement so that a car can't drive over it. As I look down at my hip, I get scared silly. I can't help the warm tears spilling down my cheeks. The right side of my waist looks horrible. Blood is coming out of the wound in a steady dribble. I can see the layers of fat and skin because the wound is so deep. It doesn't hurt. It's just the smell of blood, the metal smell, that nauseates me the most. I wipe some of the blood away around the cut with my hand. Tearing my eyes away from my waist, I pull my shorts down a bit so they don't get covered in blood. I then realize my shoulder has the exact same injury. I watch one drop of blood slip down my arm and then drip off my elbow onto the road. Thankfully, I'm wearing a tank top so I don't get blood on my t-shirt. I laugh. I've just injured myself and I'm worrying about getting blood on my clothes. My smile fades as I realize my mum won't be happy to see me in the state. I slowly climb my way back up the hill, occasionally wiping blood around my injuries. Yeah, this happened to me when I was in France. Yeah, my parents weren't especially pleased.
So she was very pleased that you protected your clothing. That is all actually, but Tom, did you want to reread yours because your mom was late? Please. Come on. Just read my story. It's okay. She didn't get to hear you in person, and she came all this way. Come on. Bear with us, please. We're all mothers, and if you came late.
It was a warm, sunny day in the timber forest. The Johnson family was having a nice stroll looking for the perfect spot for a picnic. Once they found a good spot, they sat down on their rough, colorful rug. Alice, the youngest child out of the two, asked if she could go play in the park, just a little further down the path. Yes, honey, but don't stay for too long, shouted their mum as Alice ran past them. It had been 45 minutes since Alice had gone to the park, and everyone was starting to get a little bit nervous. Her parents told John, the older brother, to go bring her back. John always thought that he would be super happy if his sister got lost. Luckily for him, she did, but he didn't know that yet.
You actually did better your second time around. Just say. So, questions. Go ahead.
Is that personal living experience? Do you have any sister who got lost?
No.
Hey, Tom, I got a question. Do they find out?
Yeah.
Tom has a question, I'm sure. Hey, Tom, back up, my man. We got you in the hot seat now.
Any wishful thinking that you're
Don't answer poorly. Don't answer poorly. Wow, you guys did awesome. Excellent. So we have 5 parents coming. You are welcome, please, to help yourselves to refreshments. There's water, coffee, tea, and any snacks. Kids, good job. Thank you. You guys actually had more time.